noon hour is here.
Check it out.
And you're locked on to Utah's highest rated, most listened to sports radio station.
It's my station. It's my station.
This is Hans Olsen and Scotty G on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Hey, welcome on in, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Hans and Scotty, hope you are all well. Let's get it, folks. Let's get after it. Let's do it. How you doing, buddy?
Well, you know, I think you do know. It was a long weekend, buddy. And you get back, and we're sitting here with Jake. And I know Jake had a long weekend, but Jake had a weekend of fun and games and relaxation. You and I grinded.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we were busy getting it done, working to the bone, working till our fingers were about to fall off.
Yeah, it was all nose to the grindstone.
We pulled landscaping duty.
Nothing but hard work for us.
It was horrible. It was just horrible. Just horrible hard work. But no, the only thing that gets me is a jet lag a little bit. I love going to Orlando, but for some reason, I've got a touch of a hangover from Orlando.
I bet you do.
Hey, yo, whoa, hey. Now, remember, I'm out there with the Cougar crew.
Panama Red.
I'm out there with the Cougar crew. I'm representing.
You and Greg got a little loose, huh?
No. But I may have seen a few people who were getting loose.
Oh, yeah?
I'm looking right at them.
Don't look at me.
Oh, so
I was with my 13-year-old.
Hold on. It's a lot easier to get rowdy in Wyoming in the Mile High than it is in Orlando. How about
those seats?
How rowdy did you get in Denver? That's good.
We got a little rowdy, man. We had fun.
Did you?
We had a lot of fun. So I just started thinking about this when I was driving home last night from Denver or earlier this morning, and my 13-year-old is just snoring on this side, and so I'm just all by myself driving back from Denver. And, oh, my goodness, look at that bone-in ribeye, that tomahawk.
Yep.
Holy smokes.
Yep, Jake's a real punk.
Wow. Yep. You know you could have gone to that dinner.
He had all the sides, too. Yeah, well, now, Rebel did eat at that exact restaurant the night before. I stayed here because you and I are committed to doing
the show. Oh, so Thursday
night.
Doing
the show. We commit. We are not going to leave this show early.
When a man makes a commitment.
Well, just so everybody out there understands, when you hear fill-ins for other stations, which I guess it doesn't happen anymore, but when you hear fill-ins, it's like, no, you could have worked around.
Yes, yeah.
It just takes time, and sometimes you're going to drive through the middle of the night.
Yep.
Or in my case, I got to my room at 2:30 in the morning. I got caught up in a dumb situation. I jumped into a car that was not a Uber.
What?
In Orlando. I'll tell you later.
Like into a random car?
Yeah.
Did you even know the people?
I'll tell you the story later.
Wait, what?
It's stupid. I put myself in a bad situation.
Ooh, this sounds like a really good story time.
Okay.
All right,
people want sports.
All right.
But
No, I got you.
I was with that. Is it Kevin Reynolds, right, with the Salt Lake Tribune?
Yeah.
Great guy.
Oh yeah, looks like he's 12, but hell of a writer.
Hell of a writer, and we flew in on the same flight. We probably got in at 1 in the morning or something, 1:30 in the morning. I was sitting there trying to get an Uber and could not get an Uber.
Yeah.
And so Kevin and then this other woman that we made friends with that was trying to get an Uber, we're standing there, and this car just pulled up, and this guy had an iPad that said taxi on it. And I'm like, all right, see you, out. And I jumped in the car.
Yeah.
And he put the iPad down, didn't speak a lick of English, and started driving. And I'm like, excuse me, sir?
Do you need to know where I'm going?
I'm like, excuse me, sir? He would not answer me. And he just starts driving.
This is like the beginning of a horror movie here, man.
I'm not even kidding you. I put Kevin Reynolds on FaceTime. I'm like, Kevin, I don't know what he's doing. I FaceTimed him, and I'm showing him this driver. The driver kept looking back at me.
Did you see the movie The Bone Collector? Did you see that, Denzel Washington? Yeah, that's what this reminds me of.
Yeah, good pull, Lloyd.
No. So I keep Kevin on FaceTime because I'm like, I don't know what's going on here, Kevin. Kevin's like, well, you could take him, right? I'm like, as long as he doesn't have a gun, I could probably take him with a knife. He was a smaller fella.
Yeah.
But then I was like looking at the seatbelt and the way I was going to grab it and wrap it around his neck, or, how I was going to get up to get the wheel or hit the brake, or I'm like, well, how far is this going to get? Like, where are we headed? Wow. Are you trafficking me? But then I started thinking, well, nobody traffics a 290-pound, bald, wide-shouldered man.
Yeah, probably not.
Tell me the
the
lock buttons were sharpened on the edges. Tell me.
They were not. I haven't seen this Bone Crusher thing that you're talking about.
You need to go watch The Bone Collector. You will like it. I guarantee you'll like it.
So then I start thinking
Angelina
to myself,
Jolie, right?
Yep. Yeah, she was phenomenal. Right.
So
Denzel
then I start
Washington.
thinking to myself, like, are they trafficking me? Like, are they going to drop me off at some random bullfight or game and be like, you call the game, you call the game, you call the bullfight? Like, put a mic, force a mic on me.
I don't want to. Do it now.
I don't want to call this game.
Play-by-play now. Do it.
I don't know matadors or bullfighting.
Oh, shoot, that's funny.
I don't know cockfighting. I don't want to call it. I hate seeing chickens kill each other.
Oh, man, this is so funny.
No, it's not funny. Anyways, it ended up in about an hour and a half drive for what should have been about a 20, 30-minute drive.
Oh, geez. So finally you had some level of communication.
Yeah, he handed me his phone, and he said something, and I put in the address, and then eventually I got there.
Oh, geez.
I'll show you the outcome on that one.
BYU's going to love that one.
I got took for a ride.
Wow.
but I didn't want to wait there.
No,
and I was up for an adventure.
Yeah, well, that sounds like an adventure for sure.
I just didn't get to my room till 2:30 in the morning.
Wow.
Hey, by the way, Kevin Reynolds, if you're listening, call in. You can tell your side of the story. And I blame it on Kevin. I'm like, you could have said, like, hey, maybe not.
You know what? One thing you figure out real quick with Hans Olsen is when Hans is bound and determined to do something, you just get the hell out of the way.
I love that you're throwing Kevin under.
That is 100% true.
That is not
you just realize that our baby buffalo's got he's committed, and you just be like, all right.
I hope he doesn't end up in pieces.
And this is, by the way, this is no shot to Kevin Reynolds. I have talked to him maybe like once. Genuinely good dude. But he is like 110 pounds soaking wet.
Yeah.
So I think it's rather amusing that you're like, hey, Kevin, save me.
Well, I told Kevin, I said, if I end up dead and body parts are sent back to my family, I said, this is on you. And that was the last text I sent. That's where I wanted it to be left.
Oh, man. That's funny.
Just be smart out there. Don't just jump into taxis.
Yeah. Unless you are a 290-pound former NFL player.
Yeah. Or an iPad that just says taxi on it. Then he presses a button and it deletes it. You're like, oh, didn't that said taxi on that iPad? Show me that iPad. Oh. It said taxi on there.
That's funny.
Anyways, it was a great trip, and when you come back with a big win, Scotty, BYU keeps us with plenty of headlines.
God bless the Cougars, man.
Plenty of content.
Absolutely. Let's get to it. Starting lineup right now, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
This is Hans and Scotty G.
Let's go.
The lineup is set, and it's time to kick off the show with the biggest topic of the day. This is the starting lineup on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Retzloff goes to Roberts. Ball is caught. First down, and then some. It's a slip tackle, and it's a BYU touchdown. 62 yards for the late first half score. Play action. Back foot throw, wide open. BYU's got another touchdown. Tavatase. That's already his third touchdown of the year on 4 catches.
day games, traveling across the country. I don't know what excuse that Book is going to come up with next, but yeah, we definitely took 2.5 personally. I'd say our locker room looked at that and got a little extra fired up for sure.
Oh my gosh, I love it.
He is just
I love it.
Sharpening the axe.
Look, I'm telling you, the worst thing that could happen to Jake Retzlaff and BYU right now is being heavy favorites against Utah here in 2 weeks.
And everybody's saying, Jake, you're a Heisman contender.
And Jake,
you've perfected your game.
You are as good as you possibly can be at this game.
And your team will win the championship.
You are playing the position of quarterback perfectly. And your team is playing perfectly. And there isn't a team out there that should come within 20 points of you.
He's got a bit of the Mamba mentality, man. He's got a bit of the Jordan mentality. Like, I don't care who says what. I'm going to find something that somebody doesn't like about me.
Yeah.
And I'm going to prove you all wrong.
It's like when Tiger had to find Phil Mickelson saying something negative about Nike clubs and turn that into a personal shot.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like Tiger was on top of the world. He's like, well, I got to find something to motivate me.
Jake Retzlaff he's a special kind of person. Special kind of person. And his whole story at BYU, from being Jewish to being doubted to starting 0-4 and having everybody look at him as the 16th best quarterback of the Big 12 to now just wanting to slap everybody across the face. And I'm here for it.
Oh, yeah.
And I've told you multiple times, slap me across the face all you want. Just make sure you keep this run up.
Yep.
Because when I'm sitting in that booth with Greg Wrubell and things are going good, Greg's a pretty fun person to be with.
Yes, I would imagine.
When things go bad, Greg he gets pretty upset about it. And to be honest, so do I.
Well,
because you know how I feel. When things go downhill, I don't like it.
You don't like bad football.
I don't like bad
And you're
football.
watching a lot of good football here with BYU right now.
I am, and I'm getting the pleasure of watching good football on the other end. UCF was not bad. I actually thought that there were a lot of good aspects of UCF. Now, Ted Roof just got fired.
Yeah.
Their defensive coordinator just got fired this morning. And by the way, just a little background on Ted Roof. He started coaching back in 1985. He's been a defensive coordinator since 1995.
Jeez.
This isn't an up-and-comer that was just getting his shot with UCF. And this is a guy that's been around the block. And I saw the game plan right out of the gates. The very first drive, he was bringing everybody. He was coming to hit Retzlaff. He was coming to shove the gaps full of bodies. He was coming to hit running backs, shoot for TFLs, and be as hard-hitting as he could, and then try to run some one-on-ones with receivers and see if he couldn't press them out of routes. And Roderick just dismantled him.
Yeah.
Within the first 2 or 3 plays was like, oh, he ran – now, I don't think it would be exactly considered a max protect, but it would because he kept 7. So he kept a running back and a tight end.
Yeah.
Because within the first, 3 or 4 plays, Scotty, UCF had brought 5 or 6 3 or 4 times.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, all right, let's hit him with a max protect. He got Darius Lassiter on. They actually zoned out. They did a press and then a quick zone. And it might have actually been a secondary 2-man concept, which means where a receiver gets to a certain depth and then you pick him up as man. Everything underneath is a zone. And you got 3 receivers in routes, and he dials up Darius Lassiter and just picks them apart and just moves forward. And then that Jake Retzlaff run for the touchdown, that was a 5-man blitz. It was they brought a middle linebacker. They only kept one middle linebacker to try to spy. They ran everybody off with the receivers, and Jake Retzlaff found the seam, shimmied through it.
Off we go.
Beat one linebacker with his speed, and then beat a safety with his speed. He's got some gears, and he turned it on. And by the end of that first drive, if I'm the UCF defense coordinator, and he was like, well, can't do that. And they called off the dogs. They went 4-man rush pretty much the rest of the game.
Yep. And then ends up losing his job.
And, it's kind of a bummer deal because I think UCF's defensive front gave BYU's offensive line the most fits that a defensive front has given them in one-on-one concepts. I really do believe that. After having watched it again this morning, you had the strip sack. You had a couple of other hits. You had some late pressures. Jake Retzlaff was releasing off late pressures. So he was standing in there for a 2.5, 3.5 count. Pressure was getting there, and he was releasing it. That throw, it might have been the second quarter to Chase Roberts, where Chase Roberts forces the PI deep.
Yes, yep.
Where he tries to come back to it, and the PI gets forced deep. That was a pressure. Mm-hmm. That was off of pressure, and he just released a high throw to let Chase Roberts get under it.
And it was an underthrow, but those underthrows turn into PIs all the time. If I'm a quarterback coach, I'm telling him to underthrow those back shoulders.
Right, and put a little height under it so that the receiver can adjust to it to force the PI, which is exactly what he did. He did that twice in that game, one to Chase Roberts and one to Darius Lassiter. And so I do feel like UCF's defensive front gave them the most fits that they've had to this point. And then I felt like Aaron Roderick did some really good things at protections. I felt like this was an Aaron Roderick game, bud.
Yes. So
this was his Aaron Roderick's best performance as a coordinator.
So I wanted
this year.
Yeah, I wanted to spend some time talking about Aaron Roderick today, because here's the thing. He went from a guy who had developed Jaron Hall and developed Zach Wilson into NFL draft picks, and it turned things around when he was awarded the play calling duties going into that Boise State game when BYU was really struggling. And then BYU wins that game against Boise State, and then they go on that tear. And everybody's like, Aaron Roderick's got it dialed in. Aaron Roderick, this guy's absolutely killing it. And then last year they take a step backwards offensively.
Yeah.
And then this year they're back and they're just absolutely mowing through opponents. Mm-hmm. And the offense continues to get better game after game after game. I remember we were at a Pac-12 media day when Rich Rodriguez got the Arizona job. And I remember asking him, I'm like, what's it like as a coach when all of a sudden you're thought of as a brilliant mastermind when you're the head coach at West Virginia, and then all of a sudden you go to Michigan and then you're an idiot that doesn't know anything about football anymore? Like, that's got to be a weird vibe when you're like, oh, you thought I was great, but now I'm not great. It obviously comes down to the players and the quality of players you have, but I also think it comes down to fit. And right now, Jake Retzlaff is just a perfect fit for what BYU is trying to do offensively. Keaton Slovis was not a good fit for what BYU is trying to do. And the fact that they were able to get Jake Retzlaff in for 4 or 5 games last year, get those lumps out of the way, which they did, get those mistakes out of his system, and then give him a whole offseason, get Jerry Bohannon to really push him and make him feel the competition, and you have been better off for it. And so I don't think Aaron Roderick became any worse at football last year as a coach. He just didn't have the right fit. And now he's got the right fit, and you can see what an Aaron Roderick system looks like when you've got the right quarterback to go into it. Now, is Retzlaff as good as Jaron Hall? No. Is he as good as Zach Wilson? No. But can Aaron Roderick make him look really good if he's got a certain amount of skill sets that fit what Aaron Roderick wants to do? Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, and has. And I do think the competition with Gary Bohannon actually elevated it quite a bit.
Yep.
And a lot of people within the first 2 or 3 games, they were still calling for Gary Bohannon to step into that game. And there were times where I wanted to see Gary Bohannon throwing a football just to see what he's all about. But Jake Retzlaff just continues to prove us all wrong, and Aaron Roderick continues to prove us all wrong and showing that he can develop a quarterback. Now, out of Jaron and Zach and Aaron Roderick's success, I would say that Retzlaff probably has the least amount of NFL ability or next level ability. Yep. Even Keaton Slovis went and got a shot.
He might still be on a practice squad somewhere.
He might be. I think that he was finally kind of let go. I'll double check that in the break, but he very well could still be on a practice squad somewhere. But I say that, and if Jake Retzlaff is listening to it right now, he probably is going to highlight that. And then when he gets drafted as the number 1 overall pick, he's going to call me and be like, hey, do you remember?
Our own color analyst thought I was trash.
But, Scotty, we've had a lot of world-class college quarterbacks that don't get a whiff in the NFL.
Oh, yeah.
There are a lot of those guys. And Jake Retzlaff, who is just a junior. He's got another year at BYU.
According to Wikipedia, Keaton Slovis is still on the Houston Texan practice squad.
Okay. So Keaton's still rocking the practice squad.
Yeah.
But Jake Retzloff is a junior. He's got another year.
Oh, yeah. Imagine what the hype train's going to look like going into next year for him.
Yeah. Yeah. So, first of all, you're going to have collectives out there to be like, oh, well, all of a sudden we love you. And I'm hoping Retzloff continues to say, oh, yeah, there was one guy that actually thought I was good. His name's Aaron Roderick.
Yeah.
There was one university that thought I was good. It was BYU. There's one head coach named Kalani Sataki that gave me the chance. So go ahead and I don't know what the nicest way to say it would be. But I'm hoping that Jake Retzloff stays true to that because
I think he will.
It's Jake Retzloff, it's Chase Roberts, JoJo Phillips. You're going to have L.J. Martin. You still got a grip of offensive player, Parker Kingston. You still got a grip of offensive players that are going to be returning next year.
Should we? I mean, look, when we're talking about job openings out there, everybody goes immediately to Jay Hill, and for good reason, because what he's done, not just at BYU, but is turning around Weber State and having Weber State as a perennial contender year in and year out. Should we be talking about Aaron Roderick as a potential head coach?
Yeah, I think that you and I have for many years. We've been talking about him as a head coach for many years. And I do think that he's got head coaching potential. I'm just wondering now, does he still want to be a head coach?
Yeah, and I think people would be surprised by how many people actually don't want to be a head coach.
Well, he just received a deep scrutiny off of just a 1-year hiatus.
Yeah.
Where everything was falling on him as a coordinator. And I'm sure he's looking at that like, okay, it's times 10 if I'm the head coach.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how much I really want to be a part of that. And all you got to do is look as far as Kyle Whittingham right now and say, oh, okay, well, that guy's put together 20 years of great head coaching, and he's having a couple hiccups, and people are like, get him out. And it's like, geez, man, like, I know. It's hard, Scotty, because you and I sit in these seats and we have to have opinions and we got to be judgmental. And when things start to fall apart, you're like, yeah, maybe there is a change. Maybe a change is needed. Maybe people are sick of the same voice. Maybe this or that. Look how fast it all unraveled for Andy Ludwig. If I'd have told you going into this season that Andy Ludwig would leave halfway through, offer his resignation that was accepted, you would have never believed
Never
that.
in a million years. Nope. No, sir.
Never in a million years. Yeah. Even if it was Isaac Wilson or Sam Heward or Brandon Rose or whoever, Botari.
Yeah.
You still think, oh, well, he's gonna suffer and find a way through. They suffered and found a way through an 8-5 season with Bryson Barnes, Botari, and the like last year. And there was not noise about that last year. So things just get heated and unraveled. But I felt like this was Aaron Roderick's best game. Even though I got to tell you, they've lost quite a few of their coin flips, and I think they've lost five of the last 7 or something like that. And
got to be better at that.
Yeah, I know. And the teams are deferring, and BYU's taking the ball, and they're rolling right down the field on their opening drive every game.
I think, honestly,
every game.
I kind of like that, actually, set the tone early.
Well, and because I've always wanted BYU's defense to get on the field and set the tone because they're physical freaks.
Yeah.
So I'm always like, oh, man, get that defense out there. But they've been losing the coin toss. They're getting the deferral. They're taking the ball. And Aaron Roderick's scripted play, I think he does 20. I'm not positive. I think he does a 20-play script. And his 20-play script is like just click, 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 right down the field.
Wow. And
enough to the point where UCF woke up this morning and they were like, fire Ted Roof.
Yep.
Fire the coordinator. That's an embarrassment. Even though I go back and look at it, I'm like, I didn't mind his game plan.
Just BYU is better.
And I didn't mind his defensive front. But where I can say that Ted Roof needs to be looked at was the physicality at the point of the tackle.
Yeah.
So many missed tackles. Did you see that Did you see that picture I sent out of Darius Lassiter?
Yeah.
2 defenders hitting Darius. That's a 4th and 2. 2 defenders hitting Darius Lassiter, 1 on the chase off the angle. And he breaks that and goes about 6 yards for a first down.
Hans and Scotty. It's all right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
This is DJ and PK.
BYU rolling over UCF to go 8-0. Can you believe it?
This is an impressive development. All the superlatives you want to use.
Shocking, surprising. Give me another one. You can't say unprecedented. They have gone 8-0 before. But I don't know if it was as surprising with any of those teams.
And the great thing, it's all earned. Nothing has been bestowed upon them. They didn't get any bestowage.
They were bestowage free.
Going into their 8th game, they were still an underdog. So even in the moment, they weren't getting any bestowage. Now, the windows of heaven have just exploded open, and it's all earned. That's what's so cool. Everything about this is earned. Nothing was given. Nothing.
Catch DJ and PK mornings from 6 to 10 on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. It's time to talk Aggie football with the interim head coach of the Aggies, Nate Dreiling, on your exclusive home of Aggie football, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Hans Olsen, Scott Gerard, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Time for our weekly conversation with the head coach of the Aggies, Nate Dreiling. This conversation brought to you by Macy's. Happy shopping. A lot of happy Aggie fans, a lot of happy players and coaches after Tanner Cragen splits the uprights, a walk-off field goal, and Utah State snaps the losing streak. Fun atmosphere in Wyoming, getting it done. Coach, kind enough to hang out with us, even on a bye week. How the heck are you, Coach?
Man, Scotty, thanks for having me. Doing good.
That had to feel good, Coach, just to finally get that win and give those guys what they've worked so hard for.
Yeah, I think relieving is probably the term I would use. The players have been so resilient this year with everything going on, and they deserve so much success. So finally got a little taste of it.
So what's that? I drove out there, so I wasn't on the charter. I got to imagine that was a fun locker room afterwards. Fun flight back from Wyoming. As far as I'm concerned, the best view of Laramie is in the rearview mirror. So all that being said, I got to imagine that was a fun night for your guys.
It was awesome. We waited a while. We've been close on a lot of occasions, and as you guys know, close don't matter in football. So they finally made enough plays at the end to get the job done. So well-deserved 24 hours of celebration. Now it's time to get on with this bye week and then start our Washington State prep and get things rolling.
And you did this without Jalen Royals, which was such a tough blow. Will you talk a little bit about Otto Tia, what he was able to do and getting this job done without Jalen Royals, and just your thoughts on Jalen as well?
I know, yeah. Someone had to step up, right? And Otto did a great job of being that guy. He had a big touchdown catch on a trick play, and then also was able to make a couple of catches. But losing Jalen is obviously brutal. He's going to be one of the highest draft picks ever at Utah State. So you have to find someone to replace him, right? And last week was Otto, and who's to say it's going to be this week, right? So it's going to be a team effort moving forward, and you got to be next man up mentality.
So on the trick play, did Grant Page throw the best pass of the day of all the quarterbacks? Because that was a laser, man.
That's what I told Spencer. I hit him right in stride. I thought he overthrew him, but hit him literally in stride. And Mazzo made an unbelievable catch, full extension, and brought it in. So a great timing play, too, by Coach Cephalo, I thought, right out of the turnover, first play off the sideline, so you can make all your final reminders before it hit.
So Scotty and I, we do a podcast on Sunday mornings after the games. We wake up early and we jump on and do this podcast. I didn't get to see it in live time, but Scotty was breaking down the play of Bryson Barnes. Take me into that decision, Coach, and Bryson Barnes coming down on the field, and as you look back on it in film, how that all went down.
So 4th and 3, right? And we liked the play. It was basically a motion, and you're going to try to hit a wide receiver screen to the field. If it's not there, then take it and run. But then obviously those plays are just so much better with Bryson. So we subbed Bryson in, and they did a good job. Wyoming did of taking away the screen throw, so he had to duck his head and end up getting 4 or 5 yards, just enough. But that's one thing about having a tough quarterback who's been on the sideline the whole time. Like, no one cares if you sub him in late on the biggest play of the game. Everyone believes in that player, and hats off to Bryson for his moment. And probably need to add some more QB run games with him as we move forward. He's just so electric when he is in.
Spencer, though, continues to play really well, and, you're kind of bummed out. You only have him for 1 year, but every week just seems like the decision-making's a little quicker, the passes are a little crisper, and coming off that injury, he's got himself really dialed in and playing really great football game in and game out. Obviously we see how good he is as a quarterback, but what does he mean to your team in terms of maturity and leadership, the fact that he's as old as he is and has the experience that he has?
No doubt. And one of his biggest things, and we've thrown the ball, 80 or 90 times the last 2 games, and he has 1 turnover, which was left in the game a couple weeks ago. So he's been so accurate, so precise. His timing has been good. He only took 1 sack last week, which was on him. It was a max drop, and he just held it too long. But he just keeps us out of, 3rd and XL. We're usually in that medium range. That's why we are getting better on 3rd down, because we're executing. Now we got to bring in a couple more catches at the wide receiver room. But if we can do that, stay ahead of the sticks, man, and just use his growth as he continues to develop, and it should be a fun second half of the year with these games coming up when you have him back there.
I was watching Sloan run the horn off the edge. Coach, talk a little bit about him in his senior year, defensive end out of Rockland, California. What his pressures and what his game meant to the outcome. He is one of the hardest working players I've ever seen on a field. You're a good football player and you had a good game when the opposing team comes up and wants to shake your hand afterwards. And every single game he's got like a line of 10 people, either that he freaking hit too hard or tackled too hard or something, but he just earned so much respect from the other team. That's how you know he's playing so well. And the cool thing about Kean was, like, after fall camp, he was our kind of our 4th best defensive end. 3rd or 4th is where we had him at with injuries. His time went up, and he took advantage of his opportunities, playing so well, and was climbing the leaderboard in sack totals, not just for Utah State, but for conference, and he's trying to work his way into first team on Mountain West.
Well, in Hans, I want to get your thoughts on this too, because I think there's a lot of good life lessons here, because Kean Sloan was a big part of what Utah State did last year. And then you guys essentially went out and recruited over the top of him. And it would have been really easy for him to just shut it down and say, oh, these guys don't think I'm any good, blah, blah, blah. And he goes down the depth chart a little bit because of the recruiting efforts you guys did in the offseason. Well, all those guys get hurt. He gets put back in the lineup, and he's not sulking, or he's not unprepared. He's ready to go, and he's making the most of his opportunities. And I think it's a really great story about perseverance and being ready to go when your name's called.
Love dudes like that.
Yeah, you're right on, Sky. Just resilient and shows up every single day, and such an awesome kid to have around. So if he keeps playing like he is, we'll always have a chance on defense.
So, Coach, let's talk about this now. You go into a bye week, and then you've got number 22 Washington State in Pullman. So what are you focusing on with the bye week? I remember last bye week you took some early time off and got preparation going quick and took some time off later. You handling it the same way, and your thoughts on getting ready for the Washington State Cougars?
Well, right now as a team, we're so banged up and so thin, we really can't practice here for the next couple of days. So they're off until Wednesday. We'll have light practice on Wednesday and Thursday before giving the players time off this weekend. But we need to get healthy. We need to get better, not at defending Washington State, but how we perform, how we practice, our fundamentals and techniques. So it's all going to be about getting better for this week, and then next week we'll dive into Wazoo.
Hey, can you help me with some rules a little bit and put your officiating hat on?
Lay it on me.
So I think the situation with Graham and Wyoming is kind of interesting. So if a player turns into a runner and he's like a wide receiver turns into a runner and is no longer defenseless, there is no targeting if it's not the crown of the helmet. Is that correct?
That's 100% accurate. So you can still get targeting if he's if they hand the ball off to the tailback, if you launch with the crown of your helmet. But if not, like, just because it's a hard hit and you hit him high does not mean it's targeting. You know, you watch that play on tape and you just watch it live, you're like, okay, well, that's targeting. The guy got hit in the head. But he got a shoulder pad. DJ didn't launch, right? And it was just a extremely hard old-school hit, and thankfully for us, it still falls in the line of being legal.
So they reviewed it?
Well,
is that what?
Yes.
No, they that's the thing. You know, all the Wyoming fans wanted a targeting. There was no targeting because he was not a defenseless receiver, and he did not use the crown of his head. He used the elbow.
They're saying on this? Scotty's just showing me the replay. They're saying on that shoulder hit there.
They
reviewed it. Came back. It was obviously a legal hit, so we did not get flagged. So no, that's one of the harder hits you'll see, and unbelievable timing for us to be fortunate to get it done.
Yeah, and you got the fumble, you got the turnover off of it, and it was just such a key moment in that game for Utah State. And I think it's interesting, kind of the fallout of that, but it's been good to kind of get the clarification of what that really means, and a good teachable moment for your players as well. Hey, are you able to? Do you give your coaches and yourself a day, or is there a time where you guys can decompress a little bit, even if it's just for a matter of hours?
No, I made sure that there was no one in the office yesterday, and then today we kind of had a later start. And now it is on to getting our best game plan. This is one of the biggest games of the year. It's our fifth-ranked team that we're going to play, which has to be a record, you think, at Utah State. But it's good. We want a tough challenge, right? We're getting a little bit better every single week. Now we got to make the most of it and go try to steal one versus these guys.
Well, see, that's the thing, Coach. Like I remember watching you guys play Utah up in Logan, and you know, even USC in the trenches. It's not like you guys are getting decimated and devastated. Your trench can keep up with Washington State. Just comes down to some game plans and the way Petrus plays. There's no reason to be afraid of this team in the Palouse.
No, I think you're exactly right. It's such a fun locker room that we have. They are, you know, we're 2-6. It's the most confident 2-6 team you've ever seen, right? But that's a large part because there's a bunch of mature, older guys that know as long as you trust the process and keep working, outcomes will eventually turn to your favor, right? So we have to make sure we keep that mindset, and if we can do that and get a couple of balls to roll our way, then we're gonna have a fun one in Wazoo.
Coach, we appreciate it. Thanks for hanging out with us, especially on a bye week. It means a lot, and look forward to catching up with you again. And again, happy birthday, by the way.
Happy birthday, Coach.
Hey, thanks. We have in recruiting news, we got a couple big official visits coming this weekend. I can't say who, but it's a good, very popular family up here. It'll be fun.
I believe me, we've all got the chills. We're excited. I know that that family is even getting their grandma to head up there just to see the old Olsen stomping ground. So it's going to be a fun weekend, Coach.
That'll be good. You guys take care. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Coach.
There he is. Nate Dreiling, head coach, Utah State.
I don't think he was referring to anybody in particular.
No, I think it was just a general observation of potential hopes of recruiting this weekend. Nothing specific.
I was really happy for them to be able to get that win against
Wyoming. Man, it just, you know, and when a team that has had the struggles, and Coach mentioned this, and he's spot on. Nobody has dealt with what these players have had to deal with. The coaching change in July, a player passes away a week later, all the injuries they've dealt with, all the uncertainty, a schedule from hell in terms of ranked opponents that they had to play right out of the gate.
5 ranked opponents now?
Yeah.
With Washington State, that's 5th, huh?
That's 5 out of 8 that are going to be ranked that they've played.
That's that's crazy. And for him to find himself in a year where he's trying to get the interim lifted off, you know, you look down the line, and let's just say they shock Washington State, and they're able to run the table, get themselves bowl eligible. They got to run the table to get bowl eligible. Right?
Yep, they're 2-6.
Oh, it's going to be tough.
Colorado State's suddenly playing some good football.
Yeah, better than anybody had expected them to play to this point. But I'll tell you what, when it comes to Scotty and I, when it comes to my family, we've all rooted for Coach Dreiling.
Oh, yeah, 100%. Good dude, great family, great staff. Love those guys. Absolutely love them.
I do too.
Hans and Scotty, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone, what you may have missed, coming up next. And then coming up in the 1 o'clock hour, good, the bad, the ugly. We continue to get you ready for Utah BYU coming up, Hans. 2 weeks, though. We got to wait.
It'll go fast.
Yeah,
and
let's hope so.
We're going to have a lot of fun guests, and we're going to really prime this thing. And we got a kick time.
Yeah.
And it looks like the kick time don't care.
8:15, here we go again.
It'll slide to 8:30.
Oh, yeah.
It just bugs me, man, because, I was just recently on East Coast time. And I'm out there watching the World Series start at like 10 p.m.
Yeah. We back here in the West, we're always like, these guys got to watch these games. They're not, and then you're out there in the East, you're like, oh, if I were them, I wouldn't watch these games either. There's no way I could be watching these games that start at 10:30 Eastern. There's no way I'd be able to do that night in and night out.
How is this even 8? Come on.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Put this thing in prime time.
Yep.
People still don't get it.
Nope.
And the Big 12 did not do a good enough job putting this thing where it needs to be, because this is going to be a show coming up in 2 weeks.
Hans and Scotty, what you may have missed next, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
The wins just keep on coming for Kalani Sitake and the Cougars as BYU keeps their dream season alive.
It's magical. It's spiritual. How can you not be romantic about this game?
As the Cougars look to stay undefeated and make their bid to the college football playoffs.
Happy feet. Downfield. Caught. Broken tackle. Lassiter. Touchdown. Are you kidding me?
The KSL Sports Zone will be with the Cougars every step of the way. Your home for the best coverage of BYU football.
Hey, let's go.
Is on air, online, and on the KSL Sports app. This is 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. You're locked on to Hans Olsen and Scotty G.
That's right. Yeah!
On 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Hans and Scotty, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Hope you're all having a great Monday. Normally, we would hear from Kalani Sitake coming up at 1:05, but we will not hear that today at that time. 2:30, Lloyd?
Yep, about 2:30.
So you'll hear from Kalani coming up today at 2:30.
Well, that BYU UCF win was great, Scotty. What did you think about the 9 ranking in the AP?
Hey, honestly, as we talked about yesterday on the Morning After podcast, when we were trying to project what it was going to look like, I thought, good chance they just stay put. But climbing up to 9, hell yeah, take that. You're top 10 team now.
My guess in the post game with Greg was a 9. I thought that they'd move to 9, but when you saw who didn't lose and who did win and who could potentially jump them and what they might do with Iowa State, who was on a bye week, and all those factors considered, I wasn't sure that they would jump up to 9, but sure enough, they jumped up to 9, and that's a nice spot for them because you got the official CFP playoff rankings that are coming out this week.
I think it is this week. Yeah, I think you're right. Yep.
I think this is the opening week for the CFP release. So
that's a big.
Where will the Cougars show up in the CFP release? Either way, no matter how you structure it, they're going to show up inside their bracket.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because right now they're the number 1 team in the Big 12.
Hey, at what point can we start to utter the words?
College football playoff?
Yeah.
Oh, now. Absolutely. Absolutely. Because when we see those polls and we see BYU in the top 12, which they will be, then we got to look at them as...
Those aren't conjecture.
No,
those aren't guesses.
That's the committee that's going to put together your field of 12 teams. So if they are in that top 12, then yes, we will absolutely have to be talking about that, which they will be in the top 12. And so at this point, look, I'm not saying that they'll hold on. Look, Florida State, now granted, it wasn't 12 teams last year, it was 4. But Florida State was undefeated and got bounced out last year and didn't participate. So weird things can happen. There's no doubt. But as of right now, yes, we 1,000% need to be talking about BYU as a college football playoff.
I want to throw a scenario at you.
Sure.
Because I could see this happening. I really could see this happening.
Can I guess what you're going to say?
Yeah.
Lose to Iowa State in the championship game and get in as an at-large?
Close. Very close. Kansas State beating Iowa State in their final game, because the Kansas State-Iowa State play. So Kansas State beats Iowa State. BYU rematches with Kansas State in that Big 12 championship game and loses.
Okay. That's not a good situation there.
Because they'd already had one win against Kansas State. Kansas State
gets the auto bid.
Because I think Kansas State's going to be at the Big 12 championship game.
So if you got Kansas State,
I think they're going to beat Iowa State.
Beats Iowa State, and BYU loses to Kansas State
in the Big 12
title game. Then it just comes down to BYU versus Iowa State. And
I'm going to throw in a caveat.
But BYU's got the more difficult schedule.
I'm going to throw in a caveat because let's say SMU is in that ACC championship game, which they are headed directly towards.
Yep.
Beating a 6-1 Duke team just this weekend to stay undefeated outside of their one loss to BYU, which is crazy. Kansas State and SMU combined 14-0.
Yeah,
outside of their losses.
Outside of
BYU.
playing BYU. Yep.
So BYU gets to the Big 12 championship game. They rematch against Kansas State. Their one loss is that championship game. Do they still get that CFP?
I think so. And a lot of it depends on what's that final score of that Kansas State-Iowa State game.
Yeah.
If Kansas State beats them up pretty good. But and how well BYU plays against Kansas State, if it's a barn burner that goes right down to the wire. There's a lot of little factors involved. But if you right now look at the resume of of Iowa State and BYU far and away has the better resume.
Yeah, they do.
Now that's in week 8. Who's to say what it's going to look like in week 12 or, after the championship game? Might be different. But as of right now, I mean, it's a no-brainer. And God bless SMU continuing to stack up the wins. And same with Kansas State. That just continues to make BYU look better.
You know what's awesome for BYU? They don't see Iowa State.
Nope.
They don't see Colorado. They don't see Texas Tech, who's shook up and ticked off after the now. They don't see TCU. They already saw Kansas State. Like the majority of the road bumps and pitfalls are kind of in the rearview mirror. Now, you got the rivalry game.
Yep.
But Utah is a complete mess. I know we're going to get into in the 1 o'clock hour. They've got real problems. In fact, we'll save that.
Yep. Hans and Scotty right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.